Anthony, how are you?
Yeah.
You're not?
Are you okay?
Yeah.
No, I'm good, thank you. It's good to be here and really enjoyed that from the answer, genuinely so.
Good. Well, look, I'm sure there's not a person in here that isn't familiar with you and your career, but if anyone just needs a refresher course, shall we say, you might just give us a brief overview of you and your career.
Well, how long have we got? No, I think it was very much a career of ups and downs. Thankfully, there was more ups than there was downs. A few times, like, the career wasn't going anywhere. Changes had to be made. Then there was a time in my career where it looked as if it was all over, which wasn't down to any fault of my own. And thankfully, I got another chance at making that career work. And yeah, I know we're going to probably go into detail a little bit more, but yeah, I think a roller coaster probably doesn't do it justice. But in the end, we got there. We got there in the end, I think, and that's probably, I guess, what we're going to talk about. You know, sort of persevering, overcoming adversity, and yeah, that's what it was.
Okay, well look, you mentioned some of those challenges and we will come on to discuss them in a bit more detail shortly. But it sounds like a really obvious question. Why boxing?
Do you know why boxing? Because probably the main reason I wasn't good enough to be a footballer. But, yeah, no, I think like most kids sort of from a city, they grow up supporting their favourite football team. And that was me. I was a big Manchester United fan, and I probably realised that at a pretty young age, although we enjoyed football, so that was okay, played for school, played for a local team, but I was a bit realistic, but I was never going to excel at football. I was never going to make a career out of it. So I come from, my father was an ex-professional boxer, and I got dragged to the gym, not because he was forcing me into boxing, but there was no one to mind me because at work, so I grew up around the gym a little bit, and yeah, I picked up the basics, you know, pretty quick. I was a bit of an hyperactive kid, and I remember thinking you had to be 11 to box, to fight. I was a competitive kid, and I went back to the gym just before the 11th birthday, and within a few months, yeah, I was having my first fight, and I knew there and then I've got a chance of doing alright at this, not unlike football.
What does, again, this sound a bit daft, but today's all about helping us to become the best versions of ourselves.
Yeah.
What, that moment when you're walking into the ring, what does it feel like?
Do you know what? I'm not sure. I'm guessing there's some people, I know they aren't for sure, but I know there'll be other people in this room, whether it's one of Rick's, you know, charity boxing nights. I always say it takes a very big person to get in that ring, no matter what level. So whether that's walking in front of you know, a packed arena, whether that's walking out in front of a few hundred people, whichever it may be, however that may be, either way, it's a very nerve-wracking thing. So I always think the best way, I learned very early, the best way to help calm those nerves is to prepare the very best you can, and I believe that's in any walk of life and any job. If you prepare it without bringing out the cheese saying fail to prepare to fail, but I think you give yourself the very best chance. So I want you to enjoy that moment of walking out in front of thousands of people, singing my name, not just for my ego, but I wanted to walk out and enjoy it because I knew right there and then I wasn't going to get any fitter, I wasn't going to get any stronger walking from the ring, walking from the walkout into the ring. So that's where I think it's so important to try and tick every box you can. And listen, I think we all make mistakes in training camp, or we might make bad decisions or stuff like that, what come back to bite you. But in that moment there and then when you're stood there and your name's getting called out, that's like, well, do you know what? I put belief in everything that I've done in the build-up, and now I'm going to enjoy this ring walk, knowing that I'm about to go to work and try and put everything that I've been practicing into action. But yeah, that moment, I always say, in my opinion, but that's me, and I'm sure there'll be people who get it from other things in life. Like, I always believe that no drink or drug, never done a drug, so I don't know, but I've had plenty of drink, but I don't know what, like, I always think no feeling will ever give me that again, and that was I'm probably jumping a few things here, but I realised really when it was time to walk away from boxing, I wasn't going to get that high ever again. So yeah, but that was how it felt for me walking out. It was one of the best feelings I've ever had in my life.
I'm glad you mentioned preparation, because like you say, fail to prepare, prepare to fail.
Yeah.
But the level that you've got to, it's about fine margins.
Yeah, absolutely.
For you, physically and mentally, what were those fine margins for you during your training camps?
I believe it was a few things. I believe, you know, man in the room at the back there, Rick will tell you, early on, there was a lot of trial and error. I made a lot of mistakes. Listen, I can laugh about it now. At the time, I was heartbroken. I think it was 8 or 9 fight in, and what I think it was 8-0, and I was getting a bit of hype around me, and people was talking, oh, he's going to be the next Manchester kid to go to the arena, bring back the days of Ricky Hatton or something like that. Listen, I always say there's only ever one Ricky Hatton, and there only ever will be, but you know, we had some good nights there. But at this time, I was 8-0, I was getting my first TV slot, and I thought like everything was going great and stuff like that, but I was overtraining, and I wasn't resting the way I should. I was doing too much of the wrong training. I was probably listening to the wrong people, and it wasn't that I wasn't dedicated, it's what I thought was right at the time. But when I look back now, I cringe and I think that was utter madness. What was I doing? Do you know what was I doing? And yeah, I don't know if anyone knows low boxing, but there'll be fighters who fight week in, week out, something known as journeymen, or journeywomen now, because there's the female side of the sport that has really grew. But I was fighting a fighter who was known as a journeyman, and a journeyman will like sort of train part-time, and I'm fighting him the first time on ITV4, and unlucky for me, a few fights went early, so we got shown on ITV1 as well. But yeah, I lost on TV. This was that, and it didn't help that my opponent was also an ice cream man. So you can only imagine the jokes between friends and stuff. So yeah, you know, Mr. Whipper and all this, you know, and yeah, and honestly, like at that time, I just thought it's the end of the world here. Like, and the phone stopped ringing, and I went from being this young lad who's going to do that, you know, be this, you know, next, you know, one of the up and coming stars of the Manchester boxing scene, to the phone stopped ringing, the like sponsorships, little things like protein powder stopped coming free, or whichever it was at the time. Do you know what I mean? It was just, it was so humbling, and yeah, it was just an hard one to take. So that wasn't the only speed bump in my career, but that was one where I thought, I've got to make a few changes. And I think it wasn't until another speed bump where I took, do you know what, I talked about those changes where I started taking action on them. So sometimes I think it's not always, you won't always make the changes probably when you should. Like if I knew now, what was going to happen, I would have made those changes earlier. But yeah, that's the path I was on.
May I ask what some of those changes were?
Some of those changes was, and it's not me passing the blame, although it's the sound of it, like coaching team had to be changed. Absolutely, that was a big one, but it was probably believing in myself a little bit more. I become sort of a gym fighter where I could do it in the gym, but I couldn't do it under the bright lights. And there was people in the gym, and I was training with lads, sparring with lads who was doing it under the bright lights, and I was pretty comfortable with them, but then it come under the bright lights and it would fall apart a little bit, and that was probably because I wasn't enjoying fight night as much as I should have done. Yeah, probably for that reason, and made those changes, and it was hard changes to make at the time, and really tough, and a lot of sacrifices that come with it. But yeah, there was worth it in the end, but I don't think there'll be a person in here when you take a gamble, you know, when you take a risk, you can't have that moment and think, am I doing the right thing? You can question yourself.
I'm glad you mentioned changes. I think we can all agree there's times in life where you can feel like you're just going along for the ride, if that makes sense. Are there moments that you can think of where you personally have made a conscious choice and it's changed your path?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Like when I look at, you know, being around certain people and sort of being, sometimes you can be impressed by idiots. Do you know what I mean? You can be. I was probably going through a lot of that because I was young, I was gullible. Things that I thought was important aren't really that important. I think, hopefully I'm not going off track too much, but I mentioned something then about, you know, sitting on a yacht and stuff like 9 times out of 10. I was at a boat yacht, you know, having this, you know, some people think I died that, but you're around people who you aren't offering nothing to you, and you're probably not giving them nothing because you're probably giving off an energy where you're like, I don't want to be here. And that was probably, I was doing in the past, so I knew I had to get around people who was on like that same kind of path that I was on, or wanted to be on, should I say. And I think, yeah, just sort of, there's a saying, people say iron sharpens iron, and being around that and stuff, and I knew I had to sort of change the environment, whereas with this I still have the same mates as what I've always had, but you know, sort of training and thinking wise, sort of believing in myself a lot more. I knew there had to be changes, and making those changes done that.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier as well about doing it in the gym and then doing it under the lights.
Yeah.
Obviously, completely contrasting environments. So when you're under the lights, I imagine it's an incredibly nerve-wracking environment.
Yeah.
Do you have any techniques that you've learned over the years to calm those nerves and use them to your advantage?
Do you know what? I think sometimes someone will say something that just makes you click, and I would think about, you know, these breathing techniques and stuff like that, and I didn't think about them until later on, and I wish, like, I enjoyed that, and even though I nearly fell asleep, I enjoyed that then, but I wish I would have knew about them back then.
Right.
I wish I would have knew about them back then. I think it would have helped me massively. I think we're always evolving, aren't we, and stuff like that as athletes, as people. But it was mad what sort of made me enjoy, what made me think. I was running with a friend, I was running with a mate who was a bit more experienced than me, and he was like, Crolla, you know, you've got to enjoy these nights. And for ages I didn't enjoy fight night, like I didn't enjoy it because I was nervous, didn't want to let people down, I was always thinking what if, I was always thinking worst case scenario. And he sort of said this, and I was running with him, asked a few questions. He's going, you know, it's a short career, and it is a short career, it goes like that. And he's going, how many people would love to be in your position? How many people would love to be, you know, walking out, fighting on television? And that was it. And I started to think, what we're doing it for? If I don't enjoy this, if I don't enjoy this sport or the job, what we're doing it for? Am I letting these like nerves take over what I'm working so hard for? There's no point, is there? There's if it's about the money, there's easier ways to make money than getting punched in the face. That's for sure. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, and that was it. But just that, sometimes I believe it can just be a few sentences or someone saying something to you. And it's mad that the lad who said it to me is a bit of a lunatic, but it registered. And it was, sometimes the maddest people say the best things, don't they? I think that was probably a kid there, and it stuck with me ever since. Just got to enjoy it, I think. And probably that's very much in life with what you do. And I think with all the things, we'll always have to do things at times that we don't really want to do, but I have to. But yeah, no, the main thing was for someone that takes up so much of your time, a big part in your life, which boxing did, I had to enjoy the end product. I wasn't enjoying the end product, but then I started to learn to enjoy the end product, and I think that made a huge difference.
Yeah. You mentioned that fight earlier with the Journeyman, which didn't go your way. If a fight isn't going your way, halfway through rounds 3, 4, something of that ilk, have you got any? Today is all about reset and making yourself the best version of you. Have you got any techniques that you've picked up over the years to reset in the moment? Because it's one thing doing it when you've got the training camp, but in the moment, have you got any techniques you've picked up over the years?
Do you know what a lot of it was I believe it was very self-driven, and I believe that if you were the effort you've put in, if you can dig as deep as you possibly can, and you've always got it's a bit weird with the boxing, because you're thinking, well, if I'm feeling it, they're feeling it, and stuff like that. So you've got to. It sounds a bit selfish, this, but you can in boxing you feed. It sounds a bit nasty, but you'll feed off someone slacking or their negative energy. Do you know what I mean? So you'd feel it in a different way you would being around that, if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. But so you'd be looking for signs, you'd be looking for weakness, what you could capitalise on. But what I always thought was, I can give it absolutely everything at the minute. I say it to my little lad, I always say it to my little lad, if you give your 100% in everything, like plays football, I say you can't always play your very best, but what you can do, you can try your hardest in that moment in time. But I think if you give everything in that moment, what you have, then you can't ask any questions yourself. If you come away from that moment thinking, I could have done a bit more, I could have done a bit more, then that's a little bit harder to take, isn't it? So the reset was really just one deep breath, listen. It was to listen to the corner man, make sure I'm following the instructions, and go out there and apply it the best I possibly can. And I believe the harder you try for something, but you've got to be smart as well, then a little bit the luckier you get as well, do you know what I mean? So yeah, that was mine. It was just deep breath, listen to instructions, and do my very, very best to go out and follow it.
That's interesting. So your reset was literally just taking a moment, taking a deep breath,
Absolutely.
just resetting right there.
It was in a fight, you'd have like 60 seconds in between a round. You wouldn't even get sick by the time you sit down, you get back up. Sometimes swabs might be in your way, you're bleeding and stuff like that, but yeah, you're in a very short time to make that happen.
We mentioned fine margins earlier, and you mentioned drink and drugs. Drank quite a lot. Drugs, never. What do you say no to that the person in the street who's not a professional athlete, what do you say no to in your life that has made you, that has taken you to the peak of your career? Does that make sense?
I think it does. I think it was more about sort of growing up, and there'll be people in this room, there's a lot of temptation, a lot of distractions, where there's a time in my career, listen, he was calling me $1 million. I was living in a bunk bed with a little brother at my mum and dad's house. At that time, driving a Corsa on finance. I wasn't nothing wrong with it. No, do you know what I mean? Yeah. So it was, I think the restriction was just, you think, listen, being a lad, and I think, listen, there'll be definitely some in here, and you can earn money different ways, and some of them aren't the right way to do it, and some of them are illegal. Like, you know what I'm getting at, and so I always knew I had to stay away from that, because I believe that was a very different life to do that. So it was learning to say no to the easy route. It was learning to say no to the easy route, because not always is that the best route, for you. Very rarely is it? But that was that, and it was just a dedication of you had to learn to say no, which I probably didn't do enough. I absolutely didn't do enough, but to certain nights or certain events when I maybe should have been resting, I think, there's a young boxer in the room there at the back, very talented lad, Clark, and he's got a great head on him, but you've got to be a little bit selfish. You've got to be a little bit selfish for yourself, and the girls said before, how many people said the most important people, and I think if you're not the best of yourself, you won't get that. And that was it. It's probably like now when I look back, I think I wish I could go back, and I believe I could have done better, but at that moment in time, I dealt with it the very best I can. I think I did. But I think as an athlete, the most obvious one is saying no to that slippery path. Do you know, it's I've seen it, and when you're around those circles, I'm sure everyone in this room has been offered drugs, or do you know what I mean? And something like that, and that was in just having the strength to say no to it, because it's very easy to do when you're around certain circles.
I'm glad you mentioned looking back on your career. With the benefit of hindsight now as an older man, a father, is there anything you would change about your career and the way you went about it?
Do you know, I said I've probably been a little bit more selfish at times, but I'm a big believer in things happen for a reason. I'm a big believer in that. And that night when I was sat in a McDonald's car park after I'd just been beat off the ice cream man, and the best pal's telling me, he's telling me, listen, this will be the best thing that's ever happened to you. And I'm like holding back the tears thinking, you fucking idiot, how's this the best thing that's ever happened to me? I wouldn't change it. And there was other speed bumps, along the way. There's a good few. But yeah, no, so there's always things out, I would have adjusted training earlier, I would have found what worked for me, but I'm a big believer in, I'm a big believer in that them things happen for a reason. It's up to you to how you adjust to them.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So listen, hindsight's always a brilliant thing, doesn't it? Hindsight's always a great thing, but it's unfortunately doesn't happen for us.
I think it's fair to say one of your biggest challenges, ironically, came outside of the ring. So just to give our audience some context, picture the scene, you're 28 years old, you're at home, the next door neighbour's alarm is going off, Craig, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
What happens next?
Yeah, for everybody's heard the story, I'm sorry. But yeah, so next door neighbour, I was training for my first world title fight. I was meant to be at Sports City, and my coach just rang me and gone, listen, you're ahead of schedule, I want to go home and rest, spend some time with your little lad and just rest. And pulled up, me gym bags down, getting the gym, I got the car next door, neighbour's alarm's going off. So as that's going off, straight away, like, what do you think? When's that going to stop? So you're going down, and then getting it, still going off, and I've actually phoned Craig next door neighbour, got, hey, next door, your alarm's going off. Is Sophie, his missus, has said, is Sophie not around? She went, oh, she's gone, Jimmy, I'm sorry. I went, oh, I was just checking. But he said, Sam, there's something stupid like that. I was checking no one's in your house, like, something like that anyway. So it was going off, so put the bag down, and half the time she wouldn't even check, and I went to the back garden, the patio doors, and I stood on like the patio, and I looked over his fence, and I've looked and I thought, is that a shadow there? Do you know, look, and then next thing, this little bird was popped his head out the window, and I'm like, right, so my wife screamed something along like, get the fucking house, you know, so stupidly, I don't know why I didn't just jump over the fence, to be honest. Like, I think back that I would have saved a little bit of aggravation. I ran through my own house and come out, thought, we've got to come out that way. And I saw him at the end of the street, and I was trying to get back in. He was saving up for a wedding at the time, and I thought, I don't know, could have whatever, valuables. Anyway, someone's in his house. So there's two of them, and I ran down, and like a lunatic, I was shouting to him, listen, you're not going to get away from me. I promise you, pull over that light. So they're running, and they've realised quick they're not going to get away from me. So they pulled down an house there, and the light sort of traps them in. And then in my head I thought, listen, you want the biggest guy, but I thought, well, I can't walk on with one back, do you know what I mean? So I just thought, oh, I'll let one of them get away, and I thought, you can come with me. And yeah, lucky for me, as he climbed this gate, it just happened to be a concrete slab that was loose, what he stood, and bang, it come down on my head. And so I've gone down on one knee, and like, I felt blood coming down, but I thought, I've been here a lot of times, I've never been like, that was weird. I knew for a fact, I didn't know what happened at the time, I thought, I'm not just getting punched and all that. I tried to jump up, the other one's got away, and I'm raging, absolutely fuming, I'm like, stumbling home, head slit right, wide open. And I've got in the house then, and like, by that time she's going, what's going on, Jill, what's going on? And the little lad was only young, he's seen his dad with claret all over his face and stuff, and I'm like, trying to explain. And one of my best pals was coming out to pick up tickets for the fight, which was, I think it was 4 weeks away at the arena, and he's like, hey, what the fucking hell's going on? So I'm telling him, and he goes to me, hey, I'm taking these tickets, my legs up, I can't stand up or anything like that. And he went, yeah, and you know when you just say stupid things, and I always think desperate, when you're desperate, you start saying desperate things, don't you? And you act desperate, and I'm going, don't be stupid, of course I won't be saying, I just won't be able to run for a few days or swim. I go, what about you, Ed? Like, you knew about boxing, he went, you can't spell that. I went, you know, yeah, God will cover it, and you're just talking some madness, take them tickets, and he's going, well, I'm going to jump the tickets to hospital or whatever, and then before the ambulance, came coming, and my uncle come round, and then in sort of the neighbour, like, things had come round real quick, and poor young lad was getting dragged into the house going, was it you? No, that's not and stuff. And I was like, oh, it's not me, is it? It's not me. And then I'm going, no. And so anyway, I got to hospital, waffling a bit. But yeah, to hospital, I'm waiting there, and yeah, the what's it called, the problem is, no, you fight. So yeah, I said, fight for a world title in 4 weeks. This is a nightmare. This, do you know, like the legs up, the head's go wide open. So sat there, and then anyway, they went, "We're going to do a brain scan." And I'm thinking, what's this about? Like, I'm not going to be alright, stitching up and going home. And yeah, then the doctor come out and he says, "Oh, you got a fight coming, didn't you?" And again, I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fighting in 4 weeks. It's a nightmare, isn't it?" And he goes, "Listen, you're not fighting. You've got a fractured skull, and your ankle's broken in 3 places, and the world just ended there, just there." And then I thought, wow, I couldn't register it. And yeah, I thought there and then, I thought, my career's over. But the child was young, just moved into my first house. The mortgage bill, I put everything into all my eggs in one basket of being successful as a boxer. And I'm probably starting to think there and then, I should have had a backup plan. And I'd always suggest having that backup plan. And yeah, that was it, world title fight was off. And there I was in an hospital bed, and yeah, going down to surgery next day. But it was just very surreal, because I was thinking, I don't know what jokes would give me here, but it became like news on the TV and stuff. And it was on, there's one thing, it was on one news report, so I turned it over and the Sky Sports News is on. That's, and then it's saying it on that, and I'm just like, well, nothing else going on. What are these painkillers that give me here, what? And then, yeah, and it just, reality stuff again. And it was the hardest thing I've ever had to take, without a doubt.
I mean, it's one thing recovering from a fight, it's one thing, it's quite another recovering from something that might end your career full stop.
Yeah.
What were the days like after that when you found out?
There was dark because people was like, you know, listen, I know, okay, I'm going to be a lot worse, it would have been slightly to the left, or whichever, it could have been a lot worse. And it was that, I was so many sleepless nights, and I'd be lay up in bed, and like, in my head I thought, I've got to get off these painkillers, because I'm not the biggest guy. I was going skinny on and laying in bed, so I'm laying in bed and just be thinking, what if I'm going to have to send my lad back to the parents' mums? Then you've tried to hurt a man, isn't it? And then, you know, even like a mum would come round for a bit, she was washing me, and I was like, and that happens, and there's probably people there who have to look after people, and there's just all I can say is like, oh, superstars, but my pride was just hurt massively. And I just thought, I don't know what I'm going to do, I don't know what I'm going to do, and I don't believe that. I always thought, I would have found a job, hopefully, that I would have liked, but boxing was always everything. I thought I finally got to where I want to be. It's been took away from me, so yeah, it was very hard to take, and it was uncertain. Obviously at this time it looked very unlikely that I was ever going to be able to fight again.
So again, today is all about resetting. So from that place that you were in with painkillers and you're losing weight, not sure you ever fight again, what were the small steps that you started to take personally to get back onto the path you were on?
You know, it sounds a little bit dramatic, but I'm sure I should have said this just then, but I remember going down to surgery, feeling sorry for myself, thinking, is it? And there was a bloke there, and you see he's terminally ill, didn't look like he had much on the left. I remember thinking, I'm feeling sorry for myself here. This man's about to, do you know what I mean? And he's probably not got much longer left. I remember thinking, I've got a second chance at this. I'm going to make sure I do everything to the very, very best of my ability. I think anyone who tell me who knew me, I was always a really hard trainer, and I'd do sometimes too hard where I wouldn't be smart. Right. But I thought I'd get a second chance at this. I'm going to do everything to the best of my ability. Made me more hungrier, do you know, because I think when something you love, when it's took away from you, you appreciate it that bit more, whether that be your partner, a job, whatever that may be, you know. And yeah, that was it. That's what I just thought. I think I forgot the question. What was the question?
Just the small steps that you took to get yourself back on the right path.
So yeah, to get on the right path. And listen, a bit of it was medically. I had to, no matter what, why the sleepless nights come, because I'd already made this decision where I want to do everything to the best of my ability. But I had this like red tape hanging over me of So we have to have annual brain scans, you had to see a neurosurgeon, and I had to hope that they was going to go in your cam box again. It is safe for you to get punched in the head again, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think that's where so many of the sleepless nights come. Obviously the finger feels in your pin and stuff like that, yeah, but it was always going to be, am I going to be allowed to? I think, when we get clearance to.
I've listened to a lot of interviews that you've given over the years, and the one word that is consistent and it keeps coming up is pressure. And obviously pressure comes in all different shapes and forms. How do you deal with pressure?
Well, I think I said to you before, the big thing for me was when Reid said to me, you've got to enjoy this, you've got to enjoy it, And now I'm a big believer in sometimes if you've got pressure on you, it's a privilege, and you've got to embrace it. And my coach, Clive probably heard it himself, says, it's your moment, your Broadway moment. You can go out, you can either choke, or you can be a peacock. You can go out there. By peacock I mean your feathers, yeah. Strut your stuff, and I think that's what it is. I think pressure can make or break people, can't it? And I think being able to learn to handle pressure is the difference. Like I said earlier, I've seen world champions in the gym, and then it comes under the lights. I think I was one of them. He's come apart, and yeah, I think you just need to learn it's pressure's a privilege, isn't it? It's a privilege, and you've got to embrace it, and it's what you do with that pressure. And the G's saying, what does pressure make? It hits diamonds, doesn't it? I think that's how you've got to look at it.
It's a really good way of looking at it, and I'm sure it will resonate with a lot of people in here as well. Well, look, I'm pleased to say you did recover.
Yeah.
18th of July, 2015, Craig was robbed in his house. I think it's fair to say you were robbed on the night. But 21st of November 2015, and for those of you that haven't seen the fight, it ends obviously, and Perez is on his knees in the corner.
Yes.
You look really relaxed in the corner. What was going through your mind in that moment?
Just, before it, and this is, I think, sometimes when you believe some things are meant to be out there. I remember before the fight, the promoter Eddie here, he told me after, he said, I come in that changing room, you don't understand, I left the changing room fuming, because I was thinking, he's too relaxed, he's going to let it pass him by, and this is his moment, he won't get another chance. But it wasn't. It was like I knew there was no way on this earth that I wanted to walk back to that changing room with that title over my shoulder. And obviously you mentioned the first fight, it was a draw where really I should have been world champion that night. And I went from being known as the boxer who got hit over the head by burglars to the boxer that got robbed of the world title. And I can't have this for the rest of my life. Like, it was people was coming up into the streets to me going, that's what it was. And and I thought, no, I wanted, not even just for ego, I thought I want to get to that end goal. And I knew there and then in the change room, I thought, no, tonight's my night, there's nothing that'll stop it, and that was it. So, yeah, listen, when I won it, I think there's a picture where there's hundreds, thousands of emotions probably going through my head, to relief, excitement, sort of joy and stuff like that. But yeah, I just believed that night, sort of visualising it, there was no way I was going to let something come in the way of me achieving my goal, and that was that night.
I'm glad you mentioned the moment when you did finally win, because I think for me it was that moment that really struck me, because you went from being incredibly calm and focused.
Yeah, I lost it.
When it reminded me of when Andy Murray first won Wimbledon.
Yeah.
He was laser focused and he was calm, but the moment that he won that final set and you were crowned, the outpour of emotion was from a
lot of people around me.
Yeah.
It meant everything to me.
There's few of us that will feel, I imagine, that something you've worked for your entire life and it lands in a split second.
That was it, I think. Everyone here's got a dream. That was my dream from the age of 11 when I realised I wasn't good enough to be a footballer. That was my dream, to be a world champion and to do it at an arena where I grew up watching some of the greats as a kid in the tube seats and stuff like that. That was my moment. So for it to happen there and then, it was just, but like I say, it was years and years of satisfaction, sort of trying to stay on the right path, making sacrifices, missing family parties, missing a good few things that, you know, I wanted to wear and wanted to be at growing up was all part of it. It wasn't a 6-week or a 10-week training camp. It wasn't since coming back from the accident. It wasn't even from professional. It was from walking in the gym at 10 years old. And my mum would take me on the bus and stuff like that. That's what it all made it worth it that night, because I felt like I owed it people as well. But then what I didn't realise at the time, I probably owed it to myself. Do you know what I mean? To go and get what I deserve.
Incredible. Look, we'll open this up to the floor in a couple of moments, but just one final question. You mentioned earlier about you knew when the time was to move on and leave boxing behind. As a fighter, so to speak, was that something you thought about before and something you planned for, or was it just instant?
Yeah, no, I'd always planned to try to get out of boxing with my marbles half intact. Do you know what I mean? I wanted to get out of boxing, and because I'd seen people close to me leave boxing, and the people who know me in this room, and boxing takes more from them than you take from boxing. It's a very, very selfish, unforgiving sport, and after it, there's no aftercare. Well, like, you're on your own, and that's why so many struggle. And I thought when the time, I seen I could have hung around, picked up, you know, bits of money and stuff like that, which, yeah, okay, might be nice, but I just thought your health comes at a cost, and I thought if you want to be a bit of an example to people, get out there where, some people might say, well, you lost them, but with your marbles intact. You know, I saw people whose speech was all over, I saw people whose balance was all over, and I think, no matter what, you can't put a price on health, can you? I'm sure so you realise that those, probably that days, you think, oh my God, I'll give everything now to be fit and healthy. And that was it, and I remember thinking, now really, I checked out from last fight, I won last fight, that was terrible. I got a win against somebody who really could have gone the other way, but I should have. Anyway, I got the win, so he was like, oh yeah, got the win, but I checked out the fight before when I fought for a world title again, and any boxing fans would know Vasily Lomachenko, one of the all-time greats. It wasn't for me that night, and I knew there and then. I checked out, do you know what I mean? I checked out, I remember a good friend to me going, I was saying something about, mate, you won't fight again. And I remember going to a B4, I always joke about it, and at the time, Adrian had messaged me as I got to a B4, and he says, November, I forget the date, November Summit, your last one, Manchester Arena, and I've gone, yeah, sign me up on there, do you know what I mean? And just joking, and I just didn't think about it for 4 or 5 days. Went to a B4, you know, most people doing a B4, apart from the drugs. And I remember coming back, and there's a lot of people would have been a B4. I always say, do you know the Burger King in a B4? It's like the Burger King of death, isn't it? It's full of corpses and stuff. People who've not ate or slept in days and stuff. You're just seeing dead bodies. And I remember looking at those people, and it dawned on me, and I'd like to say, wasn't even a real heavy one, to be honest. And I was like looking, and I was thinking, that's what position with them. I've got to go home and go to training camp and stuff like that. And I knew there and then, I thought I checked out. It was more or less going through the motions, and even like now, sort of, I'm still involved in boxing in a big way, coaching, and the Punch TV side of thing. So, like I say, boxing has been very good to me. It's changed my life and made my life a lot easier for my little boy than what it was for me growing up. I wouldn't change a thing. Not a thing, no.
So one final question. If there is a young boxer, not even a boxer, just someone starting their own journey in whatever it is there any advice that you would give?
Yeah, there's going to be adversity, I believe, in everything, whether that's, so I can't talk about running businesses and stuff like that, because I've not done it, but I know that there's speed bumps and everything. There's nothing very rarely straightforward, and I always believe you put 100% into everything, you get the very best out of it. Sometimes a little bit of luck's needed, but I always believe is the harder you work at some of that luck, there's a better chance of that luck coming. But yeah, you can't let the setbacks, put you off. You've got to come through them. You've just got to keep trying to knock down those doors. And I'm a big believer in the end, you'll get there, or you'll get to as very far as you possibly can. And I always say it now with the fighters I'm working with, if you get the best out of yourself, wherever that may be, if you can walk away happy, and probably me as a coach, I can walk away happy. Yeah.
Look, you're a true gentleman and an incredible professional. Please.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, if we judge about their reaction, it could have been these two gentlemen you bumped into a Burger King, but there we go. I'm going to open this up to the floor. Any questions for Anthony? Yes.
Who's the biggest inspiration?
My biggest inspiration, do you know why? It's man. Because now when I look at the time, when my little boy come along, it was him, because I just wanted to do everything to give him a little bit of an easier life. But as I've got older and my little boy's getting older, I think, kids are meant to have problems, aren't they? They're meant to have problems. I think it helps build them. So now it was probably just my mum and dad, because they sacrificed an awful lot to get me where I got to. He was never a pushy parent, if I'm honest. Like, dad was a bit brutal, but in a different way. But I think it was probably his way of saying, do it yourself. And he certainly never blew smoke up the backside or all like that. But my mum would do anything for us, and they'd work hard, they'd work extra hours, and sacrifice an awful lot to make sure we got to train, to make sure we got the equipment. So when I look back now, yeah, my mum and dad for sure. I was lucky enough to have two parents who was very supportive.
Yes.
After your injury, were you worried when you got the all clear that you were going to come back and be in the same fire like you were before the injury?
A little bit, yeah. A little bit. I was worried that, like I say, a fractured skull isn't the best injury to have for a professional boxer. And I was thinking, what happens when I get hit for the first time? Does it feel different? And I had to change my training. Like, I used to do a lot of running. I couldn't really run no more, and plates and pins up in my ankle. And yeah, that was a worry, but it sounds stupid. I remember thinking the first time I was going to test it, I was excited to get punched to see how it felt, excited and nervous. But yeah, no, I was injuries can change careers, can't they? So yeah, no, I was very nervous, but thankfully there was no lasting effects. And if anything, I really believe that the break, for the first time probably in my life, there was a few months of rest in the body, because I know for a fact I was overtraining and stuff. I learned me to be a little bit smarter and look at different methods to get the best out of my body.
That's another one.
Yeah.
When you fought Lomachenko, you knew the way you said after the fight, you knew you were already checked out.
Yeah.
When, on the come up to that fight, obviously he was on a massive run, did you feel like you were checked out before that fight? Or?
No, because when I look back now, I probably had, but then I was also going over there with the belief of, I'm going to shock the world. I'm going to go over there, shock the world, and like, I won't just say it in interviews, like, no, people are going to go on about, you find the Cristiano Ronaldo, Messi of boxing. How are you going to? I remember one of my best mates going to me when I got the fight. And she was like, the mate's like, how good are you? Sitting going, was he? I went, brother, man, how are you going to beat him? And I was like, fucking hell, cheers, mate. No, you know what I mean, don't you? And he was probably right. And on the night, I wish I would have changed a few things to have more success. Yeah, of course I did. But it was just, I really believed it, because I'd trained hard, I thought I'd done everything, which all back now I think I should have changed a few things, but at the time I thought I'd done everything to the best of my ability. And I was saying, no, I'm going to go there and shock the world, and I wasn't just saying it for the sake of it, I really believe that. I was like, got humble pretty quickly. But, no, like, yeah, I'm not checked out, but I mean, you look back at things, you think, maybe I had.
Gentleman in the green, and then we'll go across to the gentleman in the blue.
When you think about reset,
Yeah.
what was the hardest thing you had to come back from? How did you do it? And who did you surround yourself with?
Good question. There's a few. I think the hardest thing probably was the second defeat, where get the injury and everything like that, because that wasn't taken out of my hands, where I knew I had to make a change to my training team, and I was thinking I've got to stay loyal and stuff like that, and then I realised pretty quick that the team around probably wasn't as loyal as I thought it was, and it was some people are out for their own needs, and I probably had to take that a little bit into my hands, because I knew if I stayed where I was, it was never going to happen for me. So yeah, I thought if I wanted to sort of be able to that's it. Well, that played over and over in my mind. Oh, I don't want to say this. I don't want to have this conversation. So we've all had it, haven't we, where you have the conversation where you go into something and go, listen, I'm going or whatever, whether it be a relationship or whatever, you put it off and put it off. And yeah, that was the hardest thing. When I look back now, I think it wasn't even a big thing. It didn't really matter to them, and as much as I thought it did matter, do you know what I mean? But even if it doesn't, I would never have got to where I've got to if it wasn't for having those difficult conversations. And someone close to me just said, you know, you have got to get used to having those difficult conversations if you want to be successful in life. That's not, I think loyalty is a great thing. It really isn't. You can't put a price on loyalty. I don't believe that. I think you'll always, you know, you've got to be loyal to the ones you love and who are there for you, do the same for you. But I think you've got to just get difficult having those, you've got to get comfortable, having those difficult conversations.
Gentleman in the blue.
Yeah, you mentioned that you're a hard trader and you have to learn to not overtrade.
Yeah.
How did you suss out the difference between, or the balance between preparing as hard as you can for a fight, but also not overtrading for that fight?
Do you know what? The proof was just in the pudding. In performances, I felt in the gym. I remember saying when you were training, he says, you've got a great engine, but you've got no gearbox. If that makes sense from someone, because you could go and go and go, but those little bursts where you go and then stop and then bang, go again. I didn't have them because I didn't know, I wasn't educated. I learned that the saying sometimes less is more. So being smart is sometimes a lot better, or a lot of times being a lot better than just 100 mile an hour all the time. Do you know what I mean? I just think we are machines, but we're not machines where we can just keep going and going. So I think, mentioned before, going back to the Ferrari, you've got to look after your body and do the things best for them. Listen, will there be mistakes? Yeah. But in the end, I think you're trying to find the very best solution for yourself, what makes you perform.
We're going to have to end it there, I'm afraid, but I'm sure Anthony will stick around for a little while.
Yeah,
if you have any questions, feel free to ask Anthony about lunch or whenever you see him. But coming on.
Thank you for listening.